Honourable Member for Laborie.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to return to the central focus, or what should be the central focus of this debate, responding to a motion presented by the Prime Minister. During the course of the opposition's response, we call for sanity. We issued another call for sanity. We issued the call for sanity on the basis that one, high debt to GDP ratio narrows room for fiscal maneuver and for fiscal policy flexibility. Also, Madam Speaker, and I did quote from this document before in this Honorable House, and it is recorded in Hansard, and it's an IMF report, that currency unions with fixed exchange rates can induce mutually conflicting fiscal incentives. On the one hand, fiscal overspending by one country can trigger a costly abandonment of the peg for the entire union, thereby requiring utmost fiscal discipline by union members. Conversely, under some conditions, member governments can defer the cost of fiscal slippages to the future or share them with other members, which induces moral hazard behavior. Fiscal policies in the Eastern Caribbean currency union countries have become more expansionary over time and in comparison with other Caribbean countries. Primary balances in the ECCU countries have been persistently deteriorating for more than a decade, reflecting rapid build-up and growth of expenditure and sluggish revenues. And actual fiscal outcomes have progressively diverged from the fiscal guidelines established by the ECCB's Monetary Council in 1998, unquote. Madam Speaker, we are pegged to the US dollar, and as small islands in the Eastern Caribbean, we do have a responsibility to maintain fiscal discipline in our jurisdiction. In the period that I was in opposition, and it was on the April 20th, 2009, whilst I was in opposition for the very first time, in warning this government about the possibility of that very same narrowing of room for fiscal maneuver, I did indicate, and I quote from Government Hansard, April 20th, 2009, page 91. Madam Speaker, the weak fiscal position of the government can affect the change of expectations on the financial market, since the current policies may lose their credibility. If the economy is in a state of flux and there is uncertainty in a country, even right now, where we talk about bonds, it may affect it, because it will make it difficult, if not impossible, if we continue to go down the road like we have been doing, for the government to finance the debt by issuing bonds, unquote. In the aftermath of that address to this Honorable House, we had difficulty raising monies because of that same type of behavior, this same type of pamele behavior, that when the opposition speaks, take the time to research, come to this Honorable House and address themselves to the case in point, which is the motion before the House. We are always confronted with abuse from the opposite side. Madam Speaker, in response to the call for sanity, the member for Kasvi Southeast, my good friend, the member for Kasvi Southeast, decides to attempt to belittle the former Prime Minister and Minister for Finance. But what is his record? What is the former Prime Minister and Minister for Finance record? And I wish to quote from their own document, Fiscal and Structural Reforms in St. Lucia Towards a Comprehensive Agenda. And just the executive summary says, and speaking about the period that the member for Beaufort South and former Prime Minister managed, he said, the improvement in fiscal performance in the past 4 years. A clear acknowledgement that there was an improvement in the fiscal position of the country during the management of the former Prime Minister. But more importantly, Madam Speaker, the period 1997 to 2006 is a very interesting period. A period that will set the record straight, and that every school child and every individual in this country would be able to appreciate that what the member for Kasui Southeast has been saying are vulnerable to the facts. What are the facts, Madam Speaker? And I did, in 2010, speak to the performance of the former Prime Minister in Government Hansard. And I quote, the Labour government under the leadership of Dr. Kenny D. Anthony utilized the budget as a strategic instrument of development and change that was serious, objective, and focused, and successfully moved St. Lucia from recovery to expansion during the period 1997-2006. From recovery to expansion, how it all started. On November 7, 1997, 6 months after the May 23rd, 1997 general election, it became necessary for the new government to present a supplementary budget, in which the new Prime Minister and Minister for Finance sought to rearrange the national priorities to suit the philosophical outlook of the Labour Party and to fulfill its promises as contained in its contract of faith. The theme of this first budgetary statement was to lay the foundations to stabilize the economy and redefine its priorities. And it was for a total of $124.9 million for a 6 month period. Sustaining and stimulating growth. On April 21st, 1998, having succeeded in the initial task of stabilizing the economy and redefining the government's development priorities, Dr. Anthony presented his second budget address, 1998-1999, which was really the first to cover a complete financial year or fiscal year. Under the theme, stimulating and reorienting the economy towards sustained growth, that budget was for $633.9 million. The next, reform, recovery, modernization, and consolidation. Prime Ministers Anthony third to 8th budget addresses covered the following themes: institutional reform, economic consolidation, and social recovery, 1999 to 2000, a total of $744.4 million. Strengthening, modernizing, and repositioning the economy, 2000 to 2001. Inspiring and sustaining development in a changing world, 2001-2002, $857.3 million. Enhancing investment, revitalizing agriculture, and stimulating recovery, 2002 to 2003, $780.8 million. Advancing infrastructural development and economic recovery in an uncertain world, 2003 to 2004, $863.3 million. Strengthening, modernizing, and repositioning the economy, 2004 to 2005, $768.5 million. Consolidating gains, developing a world-class destination, and enhancing human resource capacity, 2005 to 2006, $954.1 million. During that period, the people philosophy was apparent. The socio-economic logic was sound, and the programs were practical and realistic. Despite global challenges like new international trade rules and the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks on the United States of America, From as early as 6 months after September 11, Prime Minister Kenny Anthony was able to report the very first signs of economic recovery, a modest growth rate of 0.5% for 2001. A year later, the economy was responding positively to the government's policies and rebounded well with a 3.1% growth rate. Investors were expressing more confidence. The tourism and manufacturing sectors were picking up. There was increased activity within the agricultural sector, and infrastructural products and projects were proceeding at a rapid pace. This was followed in 2003 with a growth rate of 4%. As the signs of economic recovery became even more evident and infrastructural developments in the country increased. The tourism sector had by then replaced the agricultural sector as the lead economic sector. Investor confidence was high with more local and foreign investments coming on stream. Over $1 billion worth of investments had been committed to the tourism sector alone. St. Lucia had become a world-class destination, and all sectors of the economy were reporting progress, including the agricultural sector, which was adversely affected by climate change and a more active hurricane season. Regional and international financial institutions also praised the Kenny Anthony government for its management of the best performing economy among the independent nations of the OECS. From recovery to expansion. Dr. Anthony's 2006-2007 budget of April 25, 2006 was his last before the 2006 general elections, but it is probably his best. A record growth rate of 5.4% was reported, and St. Lucia was again commended by international financial institutions for its management of the economy generally and for controlling the island's debt. The $1.1 billion budget, which had as its theme from recovery to expansion, was welcomed by all and reported progress in all sectors except agriculture and proposed no additional taxes. It also projected a growth rate of 6.6% for that year and aimed to continue consolidating the gains of the past 8 years while seeking to ensure that the state's finances supported sufficiently St. Lucia and the region's hosting of Cricket World Cup 2007 without negatively affecting other sectors. Madam Speaker, among the priorities of the Kenny Anthony administration were job creation, poverty alleviation, reduction of inequality, and the overall growth of the country's wealth, and it delivered on all those areas. After its first year in office, unemployment was already down to 16%, confirmed by the IMF. But what was the report card at the end of 2006? What we left for the United Workers' Party government? The economy had grown by over 5.4%. Unemployment was down to 13.6%. Wealth was more evenly distributed in this country, and indigence had been reduced significantly. Is that the failed policies of the St. Lucia Labour Party? Is that what you call a failed record? And I challenge the United Workers' Party administration to present any corresponding position and match it with that particular record. You see, Madam Speaker, we must understand that in this Honorable House, we are here to make our contribution. And maybe in future UWP cabinets, when the name Honorable Guy Joseph emerges, they might even say, who's that individual? Of future cabinets of either party. They may not recognize us, looking for trouble and try to butcher people in this house and attack them unnecessarily. We are on different sides. But don't try to take away what's due to the member for Beaufort South. He was an excellent Prime Minister, but he's not God. He's not perfect. What we are here to do is to ensure that we study the shortcomings of the previous administration and try to build upon solid foundations. That's what we are here to do. Not try to erase the record of an individual who grappled with the objective reality of a serious, small, and vulnerable economy. But no, failed policies. And what are the policies that you have that are superior to the policies that he embraced? You try to lambaste him in the appropriation bill by indicating that in terms of tourism, that you all had a new approach, unlike the Labour Party, and mention hotels that were the offsprings of a Labour Party government, headed by the member for Beaufort South. Headed by the member for Beaufort South. And we diversified into a number of different companies so that we do not put all our eggs in one basket. Because when you have one individual dominating, and both husband and wife works for the very same company, and you probably approach the bank for a loan, they assess the risk of people being employed in the same company. When we diversify, we are diversifying the risk. That is the type of thinking that was embraced by the former Prime Minister. You talk about Rochamel. Rochamel. Up to now, nobody has presented a document and read from it and say, these were the sections that were inimical to the well-being of the people of this country. But we have picked up the DSH agreement. The DSH agreement. And we are reading the clauses in this agreement and showing clearly why it's inimical to the well-being of the people of this country. But I challenge them to come with the Rochamel agreement and tell the people of St. Lucia what exactly they're talking about. Everybody confused. What are they talking about? We need to stop this nonsense. We need to be mature in this honorable house. You want to debate policy, let's debate policy. But you all are unable to debate, so you'll change the subject by attacking people unnecessarily. Let us engage in more mature discussions in this honorable house. And I will continue, Madam Speaker, to address myself very seriously to the issues that tantalize our country. I am not going to be sidetracked by anybody else. When I stand up to make my contribution, I make a contribution that is befitting the moment. I thank you, Madam Speaker.